The new blood's the lifeblood of an organization. Okay? Everywhere this is true all the time. Right? I call it the vampire law. Right? Because once you're a vampire, you need new blood to survive. No. But I think stuff's funny. Nobody thinks it's funny. I should be a comedian. So what does that mean? Right? How do you keep your organization pumped up and alive? Well, what's the new blood here in the taproot, right? Well, the new blood here in an organization is the furthest person down line that's the most excited, that's producing the most. They are the lifeblood of an organization. Who's the lifeblood of an event? The new guy producing new results that nobody's ever heard of, right? How do you sponsor more people, and how do you fire up your existing team? The new guy that you just sponsored that just got all in your company, right? Because you're showing people, I just sponsored this guy, and you put a photo up on Facebook or whatever, and that pumps up your team, and they say, my upline's sponsoring, and then they start sponsoring, right? The new leader, right? Do you want the same people on stage all the time? Hell no, right? Because then people think the only people who are succeeding are these old guys, right? So you want to constantly be looking for who is new that I can get out in front of people. Because it's the same people all the time. What happens? It creates an automatic effect where people look at it and they say, well, this isn't working for new people. But if it's new people all the time, it has the exact opposite effect, right? So be looking for people that are the new people getting results and recognizing the smallest increments of results all the time. That's who you want to be putting in front of people. It creates social proof, right, which just shuts off also rejection mechanisms in people's mind. People start listening to you, right? Because if I got an existing team and they're not listening, what do I do? Go build a new one? And guess what? When I build this new one, the old one starts listening. Every time, right? Why do they start listening? Because they say, oh, Dave Wood's still doing it. Okay, I can listen now. I have permission, right? Now, you do the taproot thing with that. They have a choice. They have to listen. It's like forcing them to through hypnosis, right? Not really. But seriously, they can't help it, right? You just go down line. Somebody won't listen, you go down line. Somebody leaves your organization, you connect with the leader that you have the strongest relationship with, and you call them and start a promotion. Right? Why? Because then the guy who left has got a downline that started a promotion, and he looks like an idiot. He'll probably come back later, because now his downline's going to succeed, and then I go downline from that person and help them succeed, and I go downline from that person and help them succeed. That's what secures the team. That make sense? Okay, so we got the new blood's lifeblood, right? Then here's the next one, is the real aim of what we're doing all the time is belief change, the belief change law, right? What do I mean by that? People will not change what they're doing if you don't change what they believe. They won't. It's like we were talking about the other day, the evangelist, right? What does the evangelist do? He tries to create a belief change to try to get you to take different action. Because people will always take different action if they believe different things, right? People, if they believe they can make more money, they'll make more money. If they believe it's easy, it'll be easy, right? Now, the truth is this takes hard work, right? But that doesn't mean that it's not easy, because to me, easy is defined by kind of how it comes together. Something that's difficult is like wandering around in Walmart. Well, to me, getting on a webinar selling is easy, right? If people believe that something can happen kind of effortlessly, they change what they're doing. We got our first event, we had 1,250 people there. It was in Atlanta, okay? And I got together, planning the event, and I had one goal in that event. One. That was to get people to believe that building this business is easy. That was my only goal. Well, that's a different goal than teaching them what to do, isn't it? Right? Totally different goal. See, if I teach them what to do and they don't believe it'll work, doesn't matter. Won't do it. They won't do it. Why won't they do it? Because they don't believe it'll work. But if they believe it'll work, it doesn't matter how they do it, because they're going to do it. If somebody believes, number one, they believe that they have the ability to do it. They believe that now is the time, and they're excited about the company, they're excited about the products, right? They're excited about the team, they're excited about the systems, right? And they believe that now's the time, and they believe they can do it, they believe it'll work if they do it, right? It doesn't matter what you teach them to do. It's almost irrelevant, right? We did an event, I remember that event. We had people out in the hallway after the event, after we were talking about, you don't have to pick up the phone, you don't have to call grandma. And I went out in the hallway and somebody was like, Grandma, I'm in this thing, and you don't even have to call your family, and it's so exciting, I'm so pumped up. You know what I'm saying? The next event, about half the event, was from People's Warm Markets. From an internet company. Why? Because people just get fired up and they just freaking do what people do, right? But if they're not fired up, nothing you teach them will work, right? So what you're really aiming at is you're aiming at belief change. The reason is because when you change what people believe on the inside, when you change what they believe is possible by demonstrating it, and that's the only way you can really do that. Lots of ways to change beliefs, but the best way is demonstrating it, right? You got somebody in the audience, and he's been there forever, right? And not making the money that he should. What's the best way to get him off of his ass? Take some 22-year-old who just made $94,000 in the last 90 days and put him on stage and have him tell everybody what he's doing, right? And then the person in the audience, what do they say? That pisses me off. I'm going to get up there. Why? Because the new blood's the lifeblood. Because that does change and affect what people believe. It's also a social proof mechanism, right? Social proof changes what people believe, right? And when people change their beliefs, they change their energy. How many of you know when people are pumped up, they recruit more? When people believe they're in the hottest thing ever, they recruit more, don't they? Right? When people believe they're going to make money, they work harder at recruiting, don't they? Right? So your goal is always aiming at increasing people's beliefs, right? Changing what they believe is possible, demonstrating what's next to them, right? That's the only purpose in ever doing something like buying a retarded gold watch or something, right? It's not like you're going to really wear that around because, if somebody sees it, they're going to cut your hand off or something if you live in Central America, right? Now, I probably stupidly, I used to wear that thing around before I gave it to Justin Berengia everywhere, even when I was walking around San Jose, Costa Rica and stuff, which is probably the stupidest thing ever. But if anybody ever asked to get it, I told them it was fake, right? I'd be like, is that real? Oh no, this thing, I bought this for $5. And then they'd immediately stop looking aggressive. You know what I mean? The martial arts may have come in handy had I walked down the wrong alley with that, right? But the only purpose in having nice stuff like that, because it's not like you just want to walk around buying nice stuff all the time. Most of us live in relatively normal homes, is because when people see that stuff, right, they want it. And when they want it, and when they believe they can have it, they'll work harder. I was talking to a guy, his name's Terry, right? He owns another direct sales company. Most of you guys know him, his name's Terry LaCour. And I was like, how do you move people on in your organization? He says, you know what? He's a rep too. He's actually a rep in lots of things, really a fascinating cat. But he says, you know what? I've only found one thing that's worked consistently since I've been in this industry. I said, what's that? He says, I take a person who's making some money, but not really a lot, and go to Vegas with them and blow 10 grand right in front of them. Right? And he's like, because when people get around something and they think they're making money, and what I do is so retardedly expensive that they couldn't possibly ever afford to do it, right? They start wanting to be able to do that, and they'll work harder. That's it. And I thought that was hilarious. Now, I found other ways of doing things than that, but I'll tell you, I ain't found nothing better. You know what I mean? Right? Because people will work harder when there's a bigger reward. It's the only reason I want a private jet. I don't actually want one because they're super expensive, but I do want a jet because when I ride around with it, all of you will work harder. Right? Because I remember being in a room and this guy had a private jet and he'd flown to a meeting with 1,000 people on his private jet. And these meetings weren't meetings that you were charging for. They were $10 at the door, right? And he lived 4 states away. And this is the way he described it. He said, well, here's the difference between a jet and a commercial airliner. He said, when you get in a jet, he's like, I left to this city an hour and a half ago. And the reason I took the jet wasn't because it was the cheapest way. It was because I want to go home tonight and have dinner with my wife. So I came here in my jet. And I was like, you're shitting me. Right? So that pumps people up. That's the only reason to do it, but there's a lot of ways to do it. How do you change beliefs? We'll get into that a bit. Again, providing counterexamples is a great way to change beliefs. right? Somebody believes one thing, you just give them a counterexample of something else. What's an example of that? Well, go back to the martial arts thing. 1999, I see Royce Gracie fight a karate guy. I think that karate guy is just going to pound the crap out of that dude's head. It's like, that guy, if he dives at that dude's legs, he's in for a treat of elbows and knees, right? What happened? 14 seconds later, tap out. And I was like, that does not fit in my tiny little universe anymore. Right? When you see a one-leg, one-arm midget in a bikini cross the stage and get a check for $100,000, right? You just stop. You have to stop making excuses. You know what I'm saying? When we bring another 22-year-old up who's made $94,000 in the last 90 days, you stop making up bullshit, right? Oh, I can't do this except for Landon did it, and he's only 21, and that other guy, AK, did it, and he's only 22 years old, and that 13-year-old did it at that other event, and shit. I got to stop making excuses, right? You know what I'm saying? You just got to believe something different possible. I remember talking to a guy out in Florida, and I was talking to this guy, and he was talking to me about, right? This guy was talking to me about why he got excited. This is why he got excited. He got excited because he came to one of our big events where we handed out those big checks, right? We handed these big checks to people, and he just was like, this is such bullshit, because the first one was like, $1 million, for like 3 months from like our top guy ever. And then we had like the next one and the next one. He was like, yeah, whatever. But then here's what happened. We started handing out checks for $60,000 and $70,000 to tons of people, right? And this guy went from like this to, right? And here's why. Because that was his annual income. Yeah. Right around what he made, and he believed it. Right? Couldn't believe the bigger numbers. When somebody else was you're making $3,000 a month, you see somebody making $3,000 a month, and then the next month $5,000, all of a sudden that's believable, isn't it? That make sense to you? So that's what you're doing. That's why you bring new people out all the time. Right? Once again, that feeds into the new blood's lifeblood and taproots, because it's just, again, proof that it works. If you get somebody underneath somebody, they get excited again. Or if you re-excite somebody underneath somebody, the whole upline gets excited again. Or if you get a big producer underneath somebody, people believe people can change more. If people believe people can change more, they start believing in their leadership more. If people believe in their leadership more, their leadership changes more. Right? That's why it's so important to believe in people. Right? Because people usually will not expand past what you believe they can do in your team. They might do it in another team. They might quit your team. Right? But not in yours. So if you have a very limited belief on what people can do, you're going to have a very limited team of people that stick around, right? Because people don't want to be around people that don't believe in them. Our families are for that. You know what I'm saying? We get enough of that, like from our parents and, our relatives and stuff like that. People want to be around people that believe in them. That believe in them. You know what I mean? And here's a story for you, and this is something that just radically transformed my life. 2003, I think, I'm in Amway, and I'm unbelievably frustrated. Like, I just want to quit. And I used to call my upline, like, every day, right? And he'd answer because I was, like, working all the time. And I think he felt bad for me because, like, I was working so hard, But he used to just be on the call, and he's like, you know what, Dave? No matter what's going on, no matter, if somebody told you no, I believe you're going to be great at this. You can do it. That is radically transformative when you get around somebody like that. And those words kept me around this industry for 7 years of failure. Okay? That's the power of believing in people. Well, Lawrence Tam comes to my house, right? He's shaking his head, I can't make $12,000 a month, and I start laughing. I wasn't laughing at him, I was laughing because he's so much greater than that. He's made over $1 million now in the last 2 years. This is the power of believing in people, guys, right? This is what you're always aiming at. Here's the next one here's the next rule, is that what we're really doing is dream building, right? Dream building. And we were talking about this weekend a little bit. Let's talk about it a little bit more and talk about how to do it. What we're doing is we are helping people create new worlds on the inside, okay? Because when they do, what do? Create a new world on the outside, okay? When people start dreaming, we were talking earlier about, taking people to Vegas and blowing money. Now, this isn't saying to do stuff like that if you don't have money, right? But when you get around stuff like that, it just changes you, right? It just changes you. It changes your beliefs on what's possible to see people that you know are not better than you. You know they're not. But they live better, right? And what I believe I'm better at than about anybody that I've ever met, okay, I believe I'm a better dream builder, right? If I do one thing extraordinarily well, right? Not only do I smell funny, I'm sorry, I get people dreaming, right? I get people dreaming about what's possible. And I get them dreaming bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger, right? When you get people dreaming, they create a new world, right? Why? Because they're motivated to, right? That's why. Because they have something they're aiming at, and this takes hard work, and people need motivation. Because somebody is around them that's stretching the boundaries of their world. That's just stretching it. You got your little world, and they come out, and they're like, wah! Right? People come to our events all the time, or they get around me all the time, and they look at me, find out how much money I'm making somehow. Somebody tells them, right? And if you don't tell people specifically how much you make, they just make up stories. So it's even better, right? It's true, right? But in any case, people, they find out how much money I'm making, they look at me and they say, what's going on? Right? How is this working? Or they look at all the people around, and I know what people think. Like if I'm sitting right there and there's like 40 people gathered around, right? And they're just listening to me tell stories for like an hour and a half in the middle of the night. I know what people are thinking, and they're thinking, what the hell is going on? Right? Like I remember our first event in Atlanta, Lawrence Tam was out in the hallway, right? And there's like 40 people around, right? Which is like it is at all our big events, right? Because he's powerful. And they're around there with video cameras and stuff, right? And I remember the hotel security came up to me, and they pulled me like this, and they said, I got to show you something. And I said, what? And they brought me over to the door. They opened the door. They pointed at Lawrence Tam. They said, who's that Asian? Because it doesn't make any sense why people are just standing around, right? You know what I'm saying? But Lawrence is a dream builder, right? How do you build dreams? Number one, you got to have a dream that's in front of you all the time that's bigger than where you're at. Okay, if you're discouraged, it's probably because you either don't have a dream or don't believe in it. Most of the time. Most of the time, it's not because something you're doing is not working, because when you got a dream and you're aiming for it, you just keep adjusting your strategy and keep being motivated. It's when you stop believing you can get there that you get frustrated, generally, right? One of the easiest ways to get out of frustration is to clarify where you're going, okay? Because when you're really clear about where you're going, and you see it and you believe in it and you're aiming towards it, right? Your mind will just start seeking for ways of getting there, and you'll stop seeing failure as such a bad thing. That's how I get myself out of frustration. When I get frustrated, I just re-clarify my vision. And when my vision's clear, I'm not frustrated. I might be working hard, but I'm never frustrated, ever. Right? When you got a big dream, okay, and you start accomplishing things that are above normal, which is actually pretty easy, you'll start to automatically shift people around inside. Okay? Automatically. And it's easy to do because you're demonstrating what they want to be. And they see it. And when people see it, and then you look at them, you can't help but believe in them. If you remember where you came from. See, sometimes people get arrogant when they get around this industry and they start thinking they're better than people, right? And that's the start of a downfall, okay? Remember something. Remember where you are right now, and if you're already somewhere great, remember where you came from, because it wasn't here, okay? It was down. Remember Tessa? Remember where you came from? Almost lost your house. Yeah, rock bottom. So when you look at somebody and you've been lower than where they are, you have to believe in them. And when you believe in people and the fact that they can do it and it's real, right, they start to believe too. Okay? When people start to believe in their dreams, they change their behavior to live them. Okay? That is the real art of building organizations, okay? Dream building. Dexter Yeager has the largest organization I'm aware of in this niche. He's in the big Amway. He's the biggest company in the world. To my knowledge, I think he has 8 or 10 million people in his organization. May or may not be true, but that's about what I think he's got. It's a lot of people, okay? And if you listen to him talk, and I've listened to everything I could ever get by that guy, if you listen to him talk, it never sounds like he's saying anything, right? Kind of like me, actually, funny enough. Right? However, when you listen to him, what he's known as and who he's known as is the great dream builder, right? Because that's what we do. We build dreams and live them by example. And this is one of the reasons why it's so important when you can to actually live your dream. This is why it's so important to not get trapped in strategies and stuff. Because when you allow yourself to never live your dream, okay, what are you really saying to everybody around you? This isn't worth it. Okay? That's why when you've got a lot of money, you need to do cool stuff. You have, in this industry, you got to. Now, not don't blow your money and don't go into debt. Live below your means and still do the cool stuff, right? When you go to Bora Bora on a trip with your wife or your husband, right, and you send an email about it to your list, people just join, okay? They just join. When you buy a gold watch and you just say, I just bought this because I wanted to show you what's possible, people look at it and it's more than they make in a year, right? And they say, I want to be able to buy a gold watch too, okay? When you go buy a new car and you pay for it with cash and it's way less money. When Lawrence Tam bought his Porsche, okay, he puts it up on Facebook, said I paid cash, he's dream building. When Tracy Walker goes and buys her Maserati and she talks about her Maserati she's been dreaming for years and she said, I just bought a Maserati and then a yacht. People look at that and they say, I want to be able to do that, right? When I started making money, I didn't want fancy cars and stuff. I never really have. You know, I've got a Tahoe now, you know, because it's like big and there's mountains and stuff in Costa Rica. I like that. But I never really have had nice cars and stuff. Just that's the nicest one I've ever had. Until then, I had a old car for years, and I still have that one too. But you know, when I started making money, I wanted to go live at the beach. What did I do? I went and I lived at the beach. There is nothing that changed my organization and the way they listened to me more than that ever. And it wasn't because it was the beach. It was because I talked about it and talked about it and talked about it and talked about it. I was probably the first person they'd ever seen talk about a dream, talk about a dream, talk about a dream, and then walk right into it right in front of their eyes. Anybody around then? Was anybody around then? A few. I know Chris was. You remember that? Blew your mind, didn't it? I bet you were like, you're kidding me. Right? Now your life's different too, isn't it? Your life's a lot different because you met me. You just bought a new car too, didn't you? What'd you just buy? Is a Mercedes or something? What, Mercedes? Yeah, he just bought a Mercedes, right? And he saw me, that first video I made when I stepped into that house in Costa Rica and I was ranting and raving my shirt off and I jumped in the ocean. I looked like a complete crazy person. But you know what? I was a crazy man living at the beach because I made much money on the internet, right? That's dream building. I remember Lawrence Tam, he bought that Porsche and I was like, dang, that's cool. I remember that guy sitting in my living room not able to make $10,000 a month. See, when you live your dreams, other people start to believe in theirs too, right? And you can't help but believe in them. That's the art of the dream builder, right? That's the art of the dream builder. Next law is the law of alignment, right? This is a problem for a lot of people. A lot of people have got internal issues that prevent them from doing great things. They don't believe that money is a good thing or whatever, right? If you're in this business and you believe that, you have a problem, not money. Okay? Seriously. Right? Rich people are evil. According to who? Jesus. No, sorry. Where? Oh yeah, he didn't say that, did he? No, he didn't. Well, according to Lex Luthor? I mean, is that where you're getting that? Because, I mean, Superman's poor and Lex Luthor's rich and he is the bad guy. That happens a lot on TV, right? Yeah, Batman. Yeah, Batman's like he's the badass rich guy. Yeah, he's a badass rich guy, but he's also you know, painted slightly evil. You know, the Dark Knight, you know what I mean? Huh? Nobody knows. He's just Batman. You know what I mean? Let's hide that because he's the rich guy. But the society paints rich people in this weird light. Who do you know that's rich and evil? Who do you actually know? Let's not talk about people on TV here for a second, because TV is just going to take like one person out of like 10 million people and point them as this villain. Who do you know that's rich and evil? Anybody here know one? I actually don't know any. Yeah, Dr. Evil, right? Dr. Evil, right? Donald Trump? Well, according to who? Do any of you know him? Do any of you know him? Yeah, exactly. You don't know him, do you? Right? So we're back to a rich guy that you don't know that you think is evil. Right? As an example of your silly belief that you have to be evil to be rich. If you're in this business and you think being rich is evil, you have got a problem, not money. Right? Because all the rich people I know are nicer than the poor people I know. Now, poor people are sometimes nice too, when they're not thinking about money all the time. You know what I'm saying? But who thinks about money more? Rich people or poor people? Poor people. Who thinks about oxygen more? Somebody drowning or somebody who's breathing fine? Somebody who's drowning thinks about it more. You know what I mean? Hey, Tissa, were you thinking about money a little more when you couldn't pay for your house? Probably. Yeah. Can't pay for your house, you think about money a little bit more than if you can. Right? So let's not make stuff up, but you got to be alignment that this is okay. Sometimes people have a problem with this business. They have a problem recruiting because they don't believe that people can do it, because they haven't been able to do it. Right? Because I can't do it, they can't do it, and then they have a problem recruiting and they don't believe people can do it. Well, what happens to your recruiting ability if you don't believe people can do it? You can't recruit. Right? Oh, I believe that people are going to quit. Yeah, they are going to quit. If you got a problem with it, it's your problem, not theirs. Because they're the ones that wants to do it. And if they don't want to do it, they're not going to join. And if they quit, it's their fault, not yours. Right? Just like it's your fault if you quit. Does it make sense to you guys? See, you got to be in alignment with what you're doing. It's got to line up from the inside, right, on what you're doing. See, I believe in what I'm doing, right? Because even all the money I spent when I wasn't getting results makes me so much money now that I don't look at that as failure at all. I look at that as education time. That make sense to you guys? That was my education. And you know what? It was cheaper, more efficient, faster, and pays more than the education of anybody in my family. And anybody I know. Right? So when somebody gets in, they buy a bunch of education and they quit, right, or whatever, to me, have zero issues. That's their choice. Not mine. You know what I'm saying? Somebody's here, I'm going to help them succeed. If they quit, I can't help them. Not my fault. Right? I like the saying, right? If you're not in the beaches of the world with me in 5 years, it's your fault, not mine. Yeah. It's your doing. Not mine. I'll do everything I can to help you, but you lead a horse to water, you can't make him drink. I don't know if you've ever tried, but I was like, yes, you can. No, you can't. Right? So you guys got to watch what you're seeing on the inside. You got to be okay with this business. It does help people, right? I believe that there's nothing like it for a lot of reasons, right? I look around me and I look at the lives that change around me when people stick around, right? Nothing like it, right? There's nobody else in my life that I've ever met that does things like I do, except for the people that are around me, that are close to me, most of whom I helped get there, okay? Some of them have been my teachers. But I look at somebody who's been in this industry for a long time and the amount of lives that they've changed, it's unbelievable, right? Somebody with a massive organization, and look at the people around them, look at the people that have gotten close to them over the years. People that just stick around do amazing things. Abram, your life's changed, right? Since I saw you for the first time, your life's changed massively, hasn't it? Right? You know what I'm saying? When people get around you, they start doing this stuff. Lawrence, your life changed massively from being around, right? You know what I'm saying? People's lives dramatically change who stick around. They do. There's nothing like it. Your life change, right? I just look around, look in this room. The amount of lives that have changed is unbelievable. You got to learn to believe in what you do. You got to learn to believe that it is good for people if they want to do it. And if they don't want to do it, you can't convince them to do it anyways. So stop making it a big deal. Because you're never able to convince anyone to do something they don't want to do. And I don't care what a hypnotist says. I don't care what anything says. Because I've tried to do it and you just can't do it. You try to convince somebody to do something they don't want to do. If you're a hypnotist, what happens? Their unconscious mind boots you out. You try to hypnotize somebody, they don't want to go into trance, what happens? They boot you out of their unconscious mind. You can't put somebody into trance unless they want to go in. Right? The truth. And he's a hypnotist. He has to do this for a living. Why? Because people don't go to a hypnotist office who don't want to go into trance. You get a stage hypnotist up, sometimes people are like, hypnosis is control. Bullshit. You go to a stage hypnotist show, they ask for volunteers. Why do they do that? Because if they try to hypnotize people in the audience who think it's bullshit, they can't. You know what I mean? They can't do it. I actually went to a hypnotist show one time. I love telling this story because it's true and it's a really interesting thing. It's a representation for really what we do. Because you are never going to convince somebody to get in your business who doesn't want to get in. Ever. Okay? So I go to this stage hypnotist show, and this guy is really deep in a trance. And you could tell he's deep in a trance. How can you tell? His eyes. Right? I know what I'm looking at. Right? When you know what you're looking at, you can tell when people are in trances. And people go in and out of trances all day long. This guy was in a somnambulistic trance. Okay? Producing every hypnotic phenomenon. Hallucination, arm levitation, right? Catalepsy. He was in a deep trance. Right? So this guy's in this deep trance. And anyways, this hypnotist tells him to do something. Right? And he says, I want you to get up and make out with that girl over there, you know, like she's the sexiest woman you've ever seen in your life. It's one of these adult hypnotist shows. The guy stands up, goes like this, puts his foot down, snaps out of trance, and says, no, and goes and sits down. Right? Now, I didn't know what was going on, so I went and talked to this guy afterwards. I was like, what the hell just happened? Because he was obviously in this deep trance. I mean, obviously the guy's controlling him because people are controlled. I love it when people think I control people. It's like, are you fucking kidding me? You know what I mean? I don't control people ever. You know, not anyone. You know what I'm saying? I'm like the least controlling person I've ever met in my life. But not only that, but I can't. Right? So I just go talk to this guy. You know what happened? He was a married Christian. Yeah. Unconscious mind boot the person out. No, I'm not going to make out with somebody that's not my wife. Yeah. So you can't convince people to do things they don't want to do. Somebody does something bad, it's because they want to. Sorry. You know what I'm saying? They want to do that for whatever weird reason. So in any case, you got to be in alignment with what we're doing. You got to be okay with it. If people get in this industry, they get in this business, and they get in and they quit and they fail, it's not your fault. It's theirs. Okay? You are not responsible for creating success in other people. They are. You can help, but you can't help somebody that won't allow you in. You can't help somebody that's not willing to commit. It's not your job to make commitments for people. Not your job. Okay? Not your job to change a person from one thing to another thing. You can help people change beliefs, but you can only help them if they want it. And if you're here, here's the key. You want it. If somebody opts in through a capture page, guess what? They want that information. If somebody joins my business, they want to buy more products. They may be looking for a leader who tells them what to do, but they want it. Don't get me wrong. Okay? So I have no compulsion telling them what I believe is best for them. And if I believe they should buy a product, I will tell them to buy it even if they're not rich. Why? Because when I was broke, I did that, and it helped me. Okay? It helped me. How did it help me? All sorts of ways that I could spend 5 hours on. You got to be in alignment with what we're doing from your inside, your values, your beliefs, right? All the way to what you're selling, who you're working with, and how you're building it. See, a lot of you guys, the reason you won't build an organization, the pain you've been through in the past, is the reason you won't do it. And nothing to do with what you're doing now, has nothing to do with your ability, has nothing to do with the list that you have. It has to do with the pain that you've had. It has to do with a company that shut down. It has to do with the fact that you had an upline that quit. It has to do with the fact that you don't believe people are going to do it if you get them in, right? Whereas with me, I'm very different there. If I am on the phone or connecting with somebody or on a webinar, I will tell people, pull out your credit card and buy it, right? And because I can say that with complete authenticity, people just do. I can get on a webinar and do hundreds of thousands of dollars in sales anytime I want. Hundreds of thousands of dollars, right? If I wanted to, I could make a product tomorrow and I could get on a webinar and sell $1 million of it in 2 or 3 days. Every time I want, I can do it. Why? Because I'm authentic and I'm aligned from the inside out, from what I believe to what I'm doing, right? I believe in what I'm doing. I believe in it. I know my heart. I know I ain't going anywhere, right? I'm not going anywhere. So for me, it's a good thing if people stick around my team, right? Because I know they're not going to be treated like this anywhere. Not anywhere. I know that. See, so for me, I'm aligned with what I do, right? And because I'm aligned with what I do, I can act powerfully, right? I can act powerfully. There's a lot of people that know stuff, right? But I go back to all these Bible stories and stuff because I grew up Mormon. So I like that part where Jesus is talking and they said, and he spoke not as the scribes and the Pharisees, but as a man with power and authority. Right? It's different. When you're aligned, you speak with authority. You speak with power. You talk from the inside. Right? You know what I'm saying? When I look at people, I tell you, I believe in you. You know it's true, don't you? You know what I mean? And people want to be around that. And you got to learn to be aligned and be okay with stuff. Sometimes people have a problem because they want to help everybody. Right? That's your problem. Okay? That's your problem because you think it's helping them. And that's the actual problem. Maybe it's maybe it's an ignorance before today. You think it's helping them. And because of that, you are wasting your time and your financial resources and taking time away from your family and not making money to do something that's not even helping people. It's actually hurting them and preventing them from being able to succeed by holding their hand. You're preventing them. You're like taking a butterfly and you break the cocoon and then it can never fly. Right? You got to allow people to flap their wings and beat against the cocoon. It makes sense to everybody in here? Okay? Here's what's next. We got the law of the vision. You are going to be stopped by your ability to dream. We talked about dream building already. Let's talk about vision for a second. Your vision needs to do a couple of things. Number one, it needs to be compelling to people in your organization and people who are looking at joining. A vision, right? If your vision is not compelling to them, this is why I was poking at you a little bit, but somebody said you want to get people to go to the circus or something. And it wasn't the circus, but I can't remember what it was, but it was just when you listen to it, it's like what he wants. It's like what he wants, you know, huh? Theme parks. Yeah, theme parks. Now, that's not a bad thing. That was you, right? Right, I'm not making fun of it, right? Because if you want to go to theme parks, you go all the theme parks you want. But I certainly don't want to go theme parks, right? I might want to go occasionally if I'm in town, but I have no goal or vision of it. Right? So it's like if my goal is to convince other people to go to theme parks, right? Well, maybe you should be like a promotion person who sells theme park passes or something. You know what I mean? No, just seriously. So we got to think about this stuff. Because if you're communicating a message to people, right, what do you want that message to have? You want that message, number one, to be big enough to include them. Okay? Number two, right, to be motivating for them to be around. Where they're around it, they feel like they're part of something, right? Part of something. That's why AK is powerful right now. He says, I'm going to make 100,000 in 100 days or whatever it was he said. And he's like this close. Yeah. But it's because when he's doing it, people know they're a part of that team, and he's got people making 5,000 a month, 10,000 a month in 90 days, right? But they're trying to keep up. They're having a hard time. Right? I had a few people come back into my organization because I said, just screw it, I'm to sponsor 300 people a month now. And I've been working towards it, almost there. Right? And, people are like, I'm down, I'm going to build an organization now. Right? Because they saw me do that. See, when you're moving somewhere and you've got a vision and you're going in this direction, right? With or without you. Okay? And this is what you got to ask yourself. Does your vision fit the dreams of the people around you? Or are they excluded from it because it's either too small or too weird or just off something you want, right? A vision is more than just stuff you want. A vision is your direction, right? And if you don't have a vision, people will not follow you and they won't stay around you and they won't keep growing with you, okay? Okay, and if your vision ever dies or it gets hurt or your dreams get hurt or whatever, you need to stop, take a little break, rebuild your vision, and re-engage, right? Re-engage. Because you've got to know what you're going to accomplish as a team, right? What you're going to accomplish as a leader. Who's going to come with you and what it looks like to be a part of it, right? And if you know that, people want to be a part of it because they want to be like, I want to be included in that. That's what they're thinking. I want to be included in that. I want to be in that circle, right? That goes back to another principle of the inner circle, right? And this is the way that it looks kind of like when you're building, is you're this person, and if you're building this right, you're going to get more and more and more and more powerful over time. Okay? Why? Because as your organization gets more and more removed from you generationally, you get more powerful. That's why. Look, when more people start edifying you, right? Like you go into a room and somebody talks really good about somebody across the room, right? You just will start to like them more. But if you got like 10,000 people talking positive about that person over there, and everybody's talking about them, they're like 100 times more powerful. They're like 100 times, okay? The larger your team gets, the more powerful you're going to get with people. It's just the way it is, okay? As long as you're in the game, okay? As long as what you're doing can follow all those other things that we talked about. Because all those things are important, all of them, right? When you think about being a producer while you're teaching, right? What's a better way to teach? You know, somebody asks, how do I get more sales? And you explain it. Or you make them do something to hear it, and by doing the thing you tell them, you actually get them sales. Obviously, the second way is better, because if they teach people like that, they make more sales, so does their team, and then you don't have to explain anything one-on-one ever. Okay? Always compress as many things as you possibly can into every activity that you do, and ask yourself, right? Ask yourself, does this fit into what I want to create? Right? Or are you going to have to work like a dog forever to maintain it? Well, if you have to work like a dog forever to just hold it together, is that creating what you want? No. So you got to build things in a way that actually creates what you want. My biggest gift is, right, I think, and maybe I have several that are unique, right? I have some weird gifts. One of the biggest gifts that I have is to be able to discern things like this, little things. When I look at a business, I'm not just looking at, well, how to be effective at it. Because I don't want to sit there and be one of these gurus that just sits there all day and writes books and makes courses and makes course after course after course after course after course. Otherwise, I would be in the personal development world and run a seminar business where I do things like this all the time. However, I don't do things like this all the time. If you think about it, I'm making this because I'm recording it. Because after I record it, I don't have to make it again. And from now on, when people ask me questions that are in this, I'm going to send those people to this. Right? And go back to telling stories and stuff. And they'll be like, David, no, teach me how to build teams. And I'm going to say, are you serious about that? Or are you just fooling around? You know? And they're going to say, no, I'm serious about it. And you say, well, when you're serious about it, if I tell you what to do, are you going to do it? Yeah, I'll do it. I notice you don't have the team building formula. So you just told me you were serious, but when I log in and look at where you are in the tree, I see that you don't have the product that teaches you how to do what you just told me you want to do. So let me ask you a question. If this was reversed, and I was the one on the phone with you, how serious would I look saying what you're saying? Right? Not very serious. So here's a choice you have. Choice number 1, I'll never answer your calls again. Or choice number 2, buy the team building formula in the next 72 hours. Right? And then the next day, watch the whole thing. Which choice would you prefer? Because I don't mind not talking to you again, because you're welcome to get on the team calls that we do together. And by the way, we explain why we teach things like this in the team building formula, if you'll just buy it. I'll tell you what, really want me to help you? Say, yeah, I really want help. Okay, then here's the deal. You want to buy the course now after we get off the phone. And in a few days, Wednesday at 8 o'clock, we have a team gathering. I want you to buy the course, go through the whole thing, by that team gathering. Here's the key though, right? You need to, before that gathering, no matter what it takes, you need to get 10 people there. And if you get 10 people there to that gathering, right, I'm going to pull you out, and I'm going to show you how to build this thing to your wildest dreams. But if you don't do that, I won't. Let me ask you a question. You like a challenge? You need to be there Wednesday with 10 people no matter what? Look, I don't care who it is. It could be somebody on Facebook, your grandma, your relatives. It could be somebody you meet in Walmart. I really just don't give a crap. You just need 10 people there. I don't want any excuses for it, ever. Is that okay? Yes. Because I never make excuses. Okay. So he's not going to make excuses either. So I'll see you Wednesday. And when you do that, just shoot me a little message and say, I got 10 people on, right? No lying, right? And I'll see you there. And you better have been through the team building forward meal by then. And now I just made a bunch of commissions, right? Selling something. And in addition to that, I got 10 people to my thing, right? Well, I didn't answer the question. So much cooler. Okay? Now, not everybody's going to interact one-on-one like that, and we'll talk about that. But the reality is, what I just taught you to do will maintain your freedom. Okay? Will maintain your freedom. It will keep everything duplicatable. Who here's gotten like a massive amount of value? Okay. See, I part of the reason I did this training is selfish, because I just don't want to teach people this stuff anymore. You know what I mean? So it's like, I can just send them to this now. These are the solutions to every problem I have had when building organizations, everything, every single one of them. I can solve every problem I've ever had with what I've taught you today. Okay? And the beautiful thing about, and I've had way more problems than most of you, right? Because I've had bigger teams, and when you get bigger teams, you have more problems, right? And problems aren't a bad thing. Problems are just something that you need to figure out how to solve, right? You're trying to go somewhere and you run into a roadblock, and you got to think about that more like how a tree grows in a forest, right? And that's how you got to think about obstacles. And if you go to a rainforest or something like that, anybody been to a rainforest with just tons of trees, right? Where there's so many trees that there's like no sunlight that gets through? You guys been there, right? Well, if you look up in a rainforest and you see the way that trees grow, right? If they run into an obstacle, what happens to the tree? It literally will continue to grow, but then just build around the branch and just go straight up again, right? That's how you got to think about obstacles. They're not there to stop you from growing, right? They're there as an opportunity to learn how to continue to go towards your goal in a little bit of a different way, right? So you need to learn something new when you run into obstacles, right? You learn to move it around it or something. Continue moving towards your goal, right? You've got some momentum, and then you have a little less momentum, and then you have to learn, don't do that again, right? Interesting. That didn't work the way that I thought, right? I had a upline, and he swore home meetings are the only things that duplicate. And I was so sick of hearing about it, right? Because I was off in Costa Rica. I'd out-recruited everybody. But my team really wasn't duplicating that big at the time, right? So I was like, okay, Buster, right? Flew to Alaska from Costa Rica because my parents' house is there, and that's where my more market from growing up is, right? Because the business I was in wasn't in Costa Rica, so it didn't really work if I invited my expat neighbors or whatever, right? So I flew up to Alaska, spent like $2,000, and Chris Rushlow was there. Poor guy. Man, this guy has been through fire with me, right? Where's he at, by the way? I don't even know where he's at. I just love telling these crazy stories with him because he has seen me do so much bullshit. You just go ask him about it, there's more. You know what I'm saying? There's more. Isn't there, Chris? A lot more, right, than you could probably imagine. So I go up to Alaska, and he's working with me at that point. I said, we're doing a home meeting. And his face was like, I'm going to kill you. I got in on the internet with you because I want to build on the internet because I don't like this stuff. I just said, just forget it. We'll just do a home meeting, right? So for the next 3 days, we sat there inviting everyone I'd ever met, right? I tried. I pulled out my old school books. I called my relatives. I called, people I went to church with, got a little church roster out. This was my upline, he's saying this duplicates. I was like, okay, well, just try it. Because I just got no shame for anything. I don't know if there's a part missing from my brain or something like that. I just got no shame. You know what I mean? Somebody says, yeah, do something. I say, okay. I was one of those guys, if I call everybody at church that I grew up with, it's not like I go there now, so it's not that big of a deal. So I just go, hey, Dave, I went to church with you 20 years ago. You want to come over to my house for a meeting, So anyway, so I spend like 3 days inviting everyone, right? It was awful, wasn't it, Chris? Awful, right? He just wanted to kill me that whole time, right? And then, right, I was making at the time like 30,000, 40, I think it was like the month before I'd made almost $40,000, right? So I've actually got credibility, right? So I'm on the phone with people and they're like, yeah, you're in another one of those things, how much you making? I'm like, well, last month I made like 38 grand, right? Which to most people is a lot of money, right? And they'd just stop. They're like, really? Yeah. Like, in one of those things you're in? Like, yeah. You're shitting me. And it's like they all said they'd come to the meeting. 4 people show up, right? One of them was the taxi driver that drove me from the airport to my house. One of them was somebody he invited, right? And then a lady that did karate with me, as a teenager. And then Chris Rushlow. Okay? So I do the meeting and I broadcast it on the internet, right? And we just tell jokes for like 3 hours. It's one of the most hilarious things ever, actually. That thing is really funny, right? And like 30 or 40 people joined on the internet. So it's like I flew to Alaska to tell jokes in a video that got people to join on the internet, And then I realized how expensive this stuff really is. You know what I mean? And the cool thing is we've got technology now. I'd encourage every network marketer to use technology. There's no fundamental difference between a home meeting and a Google Hangout. Except for the Google Hangout, you can stay in your home and actually dress in your pajamas like a real home business. You know what I mean? Sometimes I'm in Google Hangouts and stuff and I'm not even wearing boxer shorts. I'm just naked underneath my shirt. Now you'll wonder, is he naked down there? Right? So, you can actually be at home. There's no fundamental difference with how well it works. It's way easier to get people to. It's free. It takes no gas money. And you can actually do it from home, but you can invite people in any country in the world, and you can have an unlimited amount of people there for free. How is a home meeting more duplicatable than a Google Hangout? I mean, that doesn't make any sense at all, right? Now, before Google Hangouts were around, maybe you could make a little argument or two, but then I could say a webinar works better. I can sell just as many people on a webinar as I can in a home meeting. In fact, it's easier in the webinar, because if somebody's skeptical, I don't see them, so it doesn't affect my confidence. They just hang up. Not a big deal. You know what I mean? So I've always done this on the internet. I've always done this really simply through presentations. A presentation is a presentation. A live presentation is a live presentation. Right? Do you have to have presentations going on? Yeah, of course. Let's not fool ourselves, right? Do you need them to be in hotels? No. They can be if you want, if you're good at them. We got people who do that in our organization. It works really well in different countries around the world, right? Some countries respond way better than that than they respond to the internet, right? And those countries change all the time depending on how developed technology is in the country and how much neighbors talk to each other. Because where home meetings really work well is where neighbors talk to each other still, which is not in North America. Nobody knows their neighbors today. In the 80s, we knew all our neighbors, right? When I was a kid, we even have an answering machine on our phone. Somebody calls at 8 o'clock at night to invite us to a meeting, my dad would pick up every time. Every single time. Today, what do you do when somebody calls? First thing you ask is, what do they want? Right? You let it go to voicemail, and then you listen to the voicemail, and if it's something that warrants your energy to return a phone call, you call them back. That's not how it is in countries where people know their neighbors still. People are nice to each other, right? So in North America, where people aren't nice to each other, that stuff is hard for people who are under the age of 45. It just is. Sorry. You take a teenager in North America and you tell them to build through home meetings, name me one of them that's built a big organization like that in North America. I can't think of any. I don't know one. I know a lot of people over 40 that can do it, but people over 40 actually answer each other's phone calls. Their thumbs aren't fast enough for the text yet. We've evolved. Right? So in any case, there's a lot of ways. What's the saying? There's a lot of ways to skin a cat. I think it's actually a funny saying because I've actually not even tried one way to skin a cat yet. How they do that is just beyond me, right? I'm talking about something as they're finding a sound, right? There's a lot of ways to do everything, right? The key is to run them through and to say, can this grow big, right? Because if it can't, do you even really want to do it? No. It's a waste of time. Because anything that you can do in a way that grows big. Anything that you can do that works, you can do in a way that duplicates. So why would you do it in some other way? Right? And it doesn't take a lot of thinking, doesn't take a lot of questions. Right? If you sell really well on the phone, well then do it in front of people. Right? You say, how do I train my team to sell on the phone? Well, let them listen to you. It's easy, isn't it? Easy. Right? I'm really good at upselling. Well, do it in front of your whole team and they'll all buy stuff on the webinar. Okay? So I'm really good at coaching my new members, though. I'm so good at that. Maybe you're good at it. Do it in front of your whole team. And to attend, they got to upgrade. And if they don't upgrade, they can't attend the webinar, and they don't know how you're coaching people. Anything that you can do, you can put in a way where you're doing it in bigger groups, hitting lots of things at once, saving yourself tons of time, and also duplicating. Okay? Well, I really, 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 really like connecting with people. Well, still connect with them, but make them do something to get there. Right? Make them do something. Why would you want to skip having the opportunity to force somebody to produce in order to get around you? It's a great opportunity. There's almost nothing that motivates people more. Paul Hutchings got in one of my organizations really early on, and I taught him how to recruit on the internet. Before he met me, his best month ever was like 10 people or 4 people or something like that. After meeting me, his best month, his average month is like 20, 30, 40 people. He recruits like 20, 30, 40 people a month because he just listens. You know what I mean? But when he first got on my team, I was in this home meeting kick because my upline was like, it's the only thing that duplicates. Right? So I was like, God, I'll just do it then. I'll do it, but I got to go do it so people will listen when I tell them to do it. And I just wanted to see if it worked. You know what happened? My whole organization that I did home meetings with quit. Except for Paul. He was in for a little while, and then, it was like, I'm doing something else. I'm sick of this meeting stuff, right, for a while. And I had to get him back by getting a downline, right? Right? Sneaky, right? So I'm in this kick, and I was like, invite a list of people over to your house, and we're going to do a meeting, and I'll call in through a webinar, because I was sick of flying around to them. I just figured, I'll do them from the internet, since they don't work anyway. And I was just trying them out. So he actually invited people over to that meeting, and why did he do it? He did it because he had to do it to work with me. See, when you act like that, even if you're not like a guru or something, if people have to take action to be around you, they do. Isn't that interesting? If people have to take action to be around you, they do. If people are allowed to just call you whenever they want and kind of like throw you around and toss you for questions, and if they need something at 12:30, and it's like past midnight and they call you, you'll answer the phone and be like, hello, what can I do for you? They'll never do anything because you're just accessible all the time. You know what I mean? You're accessible, right? Who are the most interesting women and men for the singles out there? The ones that are hard to get, of course, right? Why? Because they're hard to get, right? Because they don't respond to normal things. You know what I mean? So it's more interesting. It's more difficult. You have to work harder. They're the most interesting. That's how you got to be in this business, right? You don't want to be inaccessible, right? You don't want to be a wall. You don't want to not like people. It's important to love people, right? And people who've been around me, they know I actually legitimately love people. It's real, right? That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is, right, you make rules to get around you because you have to. You have to. You have to make those rules. If you don't make those rules, right, your space is invaded all the time, and you don't have time to do the things that are going to help the people around you. That make sense?
Folks, obviously the income examples discussed are extraordinary. The income claims presented are not intended to serve as a guarantee of income. Instead, they're designed to give you an idea of what's possible. Success in this business requires leadership, hard work, and dedication. Since we want to help you make an informed decision, we've gone above and beyond with our income disclosure document. If you want to see the average earnings, please visit the page at www.empowernetwork.com/income.php.